You look at what's happening in Ukraine today, and it makes you wonder whether some of those running entire nations will ever grow up, whether democracy and human rights, even in 2022, mean anything to the authoritarian leaders of the world. It is so utterly appalling. But you know what? One man is emerging from this war as a truly significant beacon for the rest of us, and that is Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. This former TV show comic has been, and still is, quite extraordinary, despite facing the might of the Russian military for 11 days now, mind you, and knowing that a unit of assassins are out to kill him. He is not budging. He's been an inspiration to his people, conducting daily addresses from various secret locations. He has reacted to the mighty Russian military beyond anyone's expectations. He refuses to accept American offers of refuge and insists on staying in the besieged capital, Kiev.
Я прошу всіх вас берегти своїх близьких, берегти своїх побратимів. Я захоплююся кожним з вас. Увесь світ захоплюється вами. Від голлівудських зірок до політиків. Сьогодні ви, українці, символ незламності, символ того, що люди в будь-якій країні, будь-якої миті можуть стати найкращими людьми на землі. Слава Україні!
Now, we must be driving Russian President Vladimir Putin nuts with all of that passion, his resilience and that kind of leadership. He's certainly twice the man Putin is. And no wonder so many ordinary Ukrainians are joining their army side by side in defence of their country. He is leading from the front, literally. And I just wonder whether the West is reading public sentiment on this accurately, because I just get the feeling that as Ukrainians illustrate their resolve, show the world what emotion and commitment they have towards defending their own country, that the rest of us are beginning to become frustrated by NATO's refusal to do more. Now, I'm not suggesting it should intervene, but the more we see how determined but helpless those Ukrainians are, I just hear more people call for NATO to stop standing on the sidelines. I think despite Putin's threats of consequences for the world, sentiment in the West seems to be shifting slowly in that direction. Do more. And to think that some of the West's greatest armies are simply stationed on Ukraine's western border right now, watching this annihilation from a close distance, seems incredibly strange and unsupportive. But then again, it could trigger Putin to pull the ultimate trigger and doom all of Europe entirely. It is a complex dilemma. Meanwhile, Zelenskyy continues to push the West from his bunker with his latest effort, a virtual address to 280 members of the US Senate. Now, he wants more military support, more humanitarian aid, and a no-fly zone edict over Ukrainian airspace. Now, this seems the only way to prevent Russian air attacks, which are proving to be incredibly destructive. They can hardly defend against that. But that is what NATO is refusing to do, because it will instantly result in Russia breaching the order and NATO will be dragged into the war, which could turn nuclear. But you can't criticise Zelenskyy for trying. He is desperate to save his people and his country. And while he is emerging as a hero, I think an honourable mention deserves to go to the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. Overnight, Blinken, the official, by the way, who travelled to Australia only 3 weeks ago, mind you, to offer US support for the AUKUS agreement, he turns up on Ukrainian territory in a defiant show of allegiance. He crossed from the Polish border to join the Ukrainian foreign minister and had nothing but respect and admiration for the defence the Ukrainian people were mounting.
The entire world stands with Ukraine, just as I'm standing here in Ukraine with my friend, my colleague, Dmytro Kuleba, the foreign minister of Ukraine.
We are standing here. I hope the people of Ukraine will be able to see this as a clear manifestation that we have friends who literally stand by us.
Look, that is gutsy stuff. Whatever you may think of President Joe Biden, he's got a gutsy and instinctive Secretary of State. That was some show of support. Of course, the Foreign Minister used the meeting to push for a no-fly zone as well, but Blinken was not delivering on that. This war is not going to plan for the Russians, no matter what we hear from Vladimir Putin. He is being further isolated from the rest of the world, and he knows it, which is why in the last 24 hours he's created a law which allows his government to jail anyone he deems to be publishing or broadcasting fake news. In other words, the truth. As a result, there's been a wholesale departure from Moscow of several international news media, including CNN. You'd have to say that no matter what cities he ends up commanding or what territory he wins, he will face a guerrilla resistance for years on. The death toll of Russian soldiers will only increase, and we can only hope that that will force the Russian population to rise up and demand Putin's removal. We can only hope that that is one of the outcomes from what the world almost universally accepts as a grossly unjust and illegal attack on a sovereign country.